Yeah. I mean, if we're just talking about the softer skills, because technically the technical skills would totally depend on that person, role and industry. So soft skills wise, um, you know, look, with AI and so much changing technology, I think a person needs to be up to date and willing to learn new things and able to learn new tools and new skills and sort of just adapt quickly. I think synthesizing information, right? There's just so much out there, and the ability to communicate well and structure your thoughts and organize your thoughts, which, by the way, is the same skill for interviewing. I mean, I sought out a lot of mentors. I honestly took a lot of time and effort to try to figure out what I wanted to do with my career. So I did a lot of research, I did networking, I did like hands on projects, whether it was in my job or even outside of my job, got involved with things, volunteering and different things like that. I even showed up at conferences when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I wasn't even in I thought I wanted to go into like social impact. So I, went to Yale and showed up to the conference just to learn because I just really wanted to figure out what I wanted to do with my own career. So I was trying to do everything possible. And so, it took time. And now I help people do that more efficiently. But I really just sought out, whether it was one-on-one conversations, volunteering, projects, whatever it could be, where I was just like, I'm interested. Let me go dive in. Let me learn about this. Let me meet this person. So that's really what I was doing for several years. And then eventually you learn enough, you reflect enough, you pivot. And, I eventually figured out, okay, I really, like career coaching. I'm good at it. I enjoy it. People seem to have value in my help. So I leaned in and then got training and got certified and have been building out tools ever since. But yeah, it did take a lot of, time and effort. I mean, I actively sought that stuff out, you know? Exactly. 100%. It becomes competitive and it's not just the skill. And there's more. I mean, there's your branding that should be clean, but then it's, how do I get myself out there and get my foot in the door and build relationships, build visibility, maybe thought leadership, have my voice be heard on LinkedIn. Maybe I write a blog, I have a portfolio. I mean, there's ways to get yourself out there. Even on being on a board, or, say you're on a local chapter of, the Software Developers of America. I mean, any sort of professional groups, chapters, things like that. There's just so many different ways to get yourself out there proactively. So yeah, I agree. It's, some people aren't as comfortable with it or they don't know how, but it is so important. And there's ways of getting support to make it feel more comfortable and to do it effectively. I do think there's, how do I do this? But then some people do need to get over the hump of, is it okay? Is it bragging? Is it not? How do I just wrap my head around this? So it's absolutely worth it to just talk with somebody and get through those things and find a way where you don't have to brag, but we just need to get to know you, right? We need you to be honest and share about your professional expertise. Like that could be enough. So, there's mindset components. Sometimes people do hesitate. So, just get support through that, and you don't have to feel like it's weird. Those are normal feelings, but there's people who can help you find a place that's comfortable and effective to build your brand.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Vibe It Up, the podcast where we explore the dynamic world of tech. I'm your host, Dan Tudorache, and I bring over 20 years of experience in the software development industry, wearing multiple hats as a solution architect, leadership coach, trainer, and now as a psychologist too. So, you might be wondering what's the vibe all about? Well, the vibe, it's about the people, it's about the community, it's about sharing and receiving. So I have with me today Rachel Serwetz. Hello, Rachel. Welcome. And I want to explore what you are doing best, Rachel. So, what's your current role, and what means to be Rachel right now?
Yeah, yeah. So I am a career coach and I specialize in what I call career exploration. And that means helping people figure out their direction. So anytime you're making a job change, I think people usually just jump into the job search. And so what I've done is create a structure and a process so that you really have the time and the space to figure out where am I going next before you start applying. So really learning about yourself and learning about the roles in the industries and figuring out what makes sense for me next professionally.
Awesome, awesome. That's a nice and interesting job you are doing. And lately, I was going towards this part, but in tech for tech people, more like into mentoring than just general. But it is. Um, I ask you now how it is for you. How do you feel doing this?
Yeah, I mean, I love doing it. But my day to day as a founder and a CEO, and running a small business, I have a lot of other things as well, right? So I do the coaching, but we have marketing, and we actually have a software as well. So we have a few different components to what happens in my week. But in terms of the coaching, I do love helping people with these processes because it's very stressful, and it's very important, and it's very impactful. So I like to help people feel supported and that they have guidance, and that I always say people shouldn't have to question how to navigate career processes. They should just it's enough that you're in the driver's seat, and there's a lot of time and effort that is required to actually do job search or do exploration, which is bad enough. And so what I try to do is say, okay, let me at least help you know how to navigate these things so that you can just dive in and do all the work and really apply it to yourself. And a lot of people are questioning, how do I even job search and how do I do all these things? So just providing that is very meaningful. And I like to innovate as well, right? Sometimes job search tactics don't work so well. So how can I both not just give that guidance, but question the guidance and make it better, and make tools and make processes that really are going to help people the most. So we actually built a software that is a complement to the coaching, and that way you have a workspace in between the coaching calls. I found that coaching was often you'd get on the phone and you'd hang up and hope for the best. So I try to really build out what's going to happen throughout this process, and if I can sort of see your work and guide your work so you know how to do things effectively, it really helps a lot.
Oh, awesome, thank you. And yeah, as you mentioned, from a CEO and founder role, we definitely had a lot of things happening around, from marketing, sales, and other types of collaboration, accounting, and and so on. So yes, multiple challenges. Okay, okay. So what you say is very, very interesting, and I've discovered I didn't knew those at starting of my career in tech. And when I started to find, and I've made the coaching certification and school, I've seen, okay, there are multiple ways, multiple tools to help people towards their goals, to achieve um, a better life, to say like that, being with another job, updating their job, their role, and so on. And as you mentioned, I think this episode is coming very well in this context where the tech industry is so messy right now, and it's in a continuous reshaping of roles, jobs, and market and companies, and so on. So How do you see this entire I don't know progress of economics and companies around the globe?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on. We see layoffs, but we still see hiring, right? It's weird and it is hard to predict, right? I had a friend that got hired recently at, a major company, and yet there was layoffs, pretty soon after he joined. It's confusing, and sometimes it just doesn't even make a lot of sense. There could be companies that are doing really well that have layoffs, right? And you're like, it's so hard to predict these days on the macro level of what's going on. And so I think it's just all the more important to look after yourself, because it's just not predictable anymore, I would say. And so having the ownership and the control and the support and proactiveness around your career development is kind of all you can do. When layoffs can kind of come at any time, you really have to own your career. And even when you're on the job, you're doing networking, you're clarifying, where would I go next if I were to be searching? You're trying to do upskilling, you are building your brand. I mean, this stuff can't happen just only when you're in a job search anymore. It's sort of all the time that you really want to be thinking about it, and especially proactively. It's so much easier to build the relationships when you're not in the active search mode. So I think that's the most critical today, is to just, not that you have to think about this every day, but maybe once a month, you think about, what can I do to move my career forward a little bit, and not only rely on doing so internally at your job. Think about building relationships with other people at other companies, going to different events or conferences. I mean, there's just a lot of different things to do. So just periodically looking out for yourself, I think, is the key.
Indeed, and I've also discovered this maybe 10 years after I started to work, and it was something a revelation for me. And I don't think if you know, but many tech people, software developers, DevOps, and so on, don't really care too much about their LinkedIn profile, their social network, this part is somehow nearly to zero for them. And I don't know why, either because we were not taught in school or how to do these things properly, how to take care of yourself first and not the company you are working for, and to be sure that if layoff will come, you have everything you need in order to be seen in the first place, and after that uh, to have also the skills, because if you have the skills but no one can see you, you're not existent.
Exactly. 100%. It becomes competitive, and it's not just the skill, and there's more. I mean, there's your branding that should be clean, but then it's, how do I get myself out there and get my foot in the door and build relationships, build visibility, maybe thought leadership, have my voice be heard on LinkedIn. Maybe I write a blog, I have a portfolio. I mean, there's ways to get yourself out there. Even on being on a board, or, say you're on a local chapter of, the Software Developers of America. I mean, any sort of professional groups, chapters, things like that. There's just so many different ways to get yourself out there proactively. So yeah, I agree. It's, some people aren't as comfortable with it, or they don't know how, but it is so important. And there's ways of getting support to make it feel more comfortable and to do it effectively. I do think there's, how do I do this? But then some people do need to get over the hump of, is it okay? Is it bragging? Is it not? How do I just wrap my head around this? So it's absolutely worth it to just talk with somebody and get through those things and find a way where you don't have to brag, but we just need to get to know you, right? We need you to be honest and share about your professional expertise. Like, that could be enough. So there's mindset components. Sometimes people do hesitate. So, just get support through that, and you don't have to feel like it's weird. Those are normal feelings, but there's people who can help you find a place that's comfortable and effective to build your brand.
Mm, indeed. And regarding this, that um, in LinkedIn, if you don't have a social, I don't know, visibility or profile or something like that, and you're not involved in networking and communities, for technical people, most of their networking were the recruiters back in the days. And I don't think that's it, right? It should be more than that.
Totally. I always say, I mean, you want to be networking with people who are in the roles, in the teams, in the companies that you want to work for, in the industries. And so, yeah, recruiters are important, but absolutely not everything. So, yeah, you want to be chatting with people that would be on your future team, essentially, right? If you have dream companies or certain industry sectors, or, yeah, just people in the different functional roles that you would want to be doing. So absolutely, there's HR and talent professionals, and then there's the functional folks. And you might even build other relationships. You might have a mentor that, say you're a developer. What if somebody works in marketing? I mean, you can still learn from people in other divisions, because, something like technology affects everything. And so there's going to be technologists that are paired with a marketing team, or paired with the sales team, or paired with the operations team, or paired with the analytics team. And so even building other relationships that may not have seemed obvious to you. So it's not just people in your role and it's talent professionals, but it's just people in general, that you can learn from in different ways. But truly, it's just having like your tentacles out, and just building relationships. You never know. You're going to help someone, they're going to help you. It all sort of comes around, goes around. And just see it like an authentic learning experience. Like, at any given time, you may not like need their help right now, but you're probably trying to figure out something in your career. Maybe you're growing, maybe you're figuring out what next skill to develop. Having someone in your corner, right? These are different mentors that you can tap for authentic goals and challenges. And then when it comes time, they would have already gotten to know you and can vouch for you and advocate and maybe refer you or introduce you to other people. So, you want to organically try to build, I mean, as many relationships as you can. There's only so much one person can do, but you can, do what you can, and just give yourself a reasonable goal. Maybe once a month you meet one new person, right? So whatever, I mean, it depends. If you're actively job searching, you might be doing more than that. But if you're in a job, that can be a nice, happy medium that isn't too much, but that would be a great goal to set.
Yeah, indeed. And speaking of layoffs and new hiring in at the same time, and you have exposure to this trend and see how many companies are searching for new people and how many companies are getting people out. So what advice, besides the networking, what advice would you give to people that have been laid off this year or last year, and they cannot yet found a new job? What's your, I don't know, take on this? How they should approach it?
So I actually have a video, and I think it was called like the 6 or 7 steps to, what do you do after the layoff? So, I mean, it depends. If you were just laid off, the first thing you want to do is actually just mentally heal and process and make sense of everything. And then, really, the first thing you want to do is clarify your direction. What is the right role title? What are the right industries or companies? And just make sure you're airtight and crystal clear around what is a fit for you, what's next for you, what makes sense. If you have too many options, it can be overwhelming and confusing to your job search. So at that point, you might think about, do I need upskilling? Is there any gaps in my skills that I need to advance and develop? You would want to think about your personal branding. So, really making your story super clear and effective, right? There's, how does it read? How does it look? But there's also these, technical algorithms of how are people being found in the ATS systems or in LinkedIn algorithms. So, clean up your materials, have somebody else look at those with you. Resume, LinkedIn, professional summary, cover letter, portfolio, things like that. And then it becomes time to just learn about how to job search. And networking is really huge. I mean, you don't only want to leverage those online applications. So, networking means having a 20 or 30-minute informational chat with somebody who's in a job that you admire or somebody you want to learn from, somebody you want to meet with. And you will spend that time on the call to actually learn from them and ask good questions. So there's so many activities you can do beyond the online applications, and that's the pitfall. I just see a lot of these online job boards aren't working for candidates. So you got to get creative, right? How do I join Slack groups or communities or just events, meetups, doing research, doing the networking, doing reflection, doing the exploration, clarifying, and just getting really scrappy and creative, doing thought leadership, personal branding. There's just different activities that can help get you out there beyond just those online applications. So that's really what you want to figure out is how do I balance my time and balance my week and do the most important things and get myself in front of the right people and get support too. If you have another pair of eyes and ears who can say, if you say, here's my challenges and here's the patterns and here's what I'm seeing, what do I do about it? You kind of just need to get out of your own way sometimes, and just getting support from someone else, a mentor, a peer, a coach, can go such a long way.
Yes, yes, and that reminds me that many people in tech are actually introverts, and not that maybe they don't usually um, used to ask for help in this direction when until now every company or recruiter were there in their inbox messages with messages and job offers and so on, and now it's not happening that anymore, or not as much as then, and they don't know actually the things that you said earlier, and many of them they are just going with the old way. They mean they've applied on LinkedIn and that's it, and after that they complain to me, to other people, I cannot find a job, it has been 3 months and I still cannot find something, and so on. So yeah, there's more than just applying on LinkedIn. There's more than that if you want to be that there, but it's important the skills that you have, because being able to say help me, or to call for help, or to find someone to help you, it means you have a higher resilience and emotional intelligence skills, whereas many people don't have it. So that's another thing they don't taught us in school, how to have and grow the emotional intelligence into helping people and asking for help when it's needed. And many people think that, yeah, I can do it myself, I've done it until now, I can do it from here too. But yes, you can do it, but in how much time and with what cost? Maybe the job offer you will get will be half of what you deserve. So that won't be.
Yeah, I mean, times are changing, and while it would have been nice if in school we all had a class in emotional learning and all that, we may not have had that. So, yeah, I think that, in job search, people do want to recognize that it's a self-growth journey. It's going to be a self-development journey. You're going to learn a lot about yourself and the world, and it's hard. It could be one of the hardest things somebody ever has to do. Um, and so being open minded to recognize, I always say it's the mindset, the accountability, and the practical strategy. All three of those, you have to learn what are the practical, tips and tactics and methods. I also need to stay accountable to do the right volume and spend enough time and, just structure my day. But also, I'm a human and this mindset thing is real. If I'm hesitating or feeling uncomfortable to do networking and thus I'm not doing it, am I holding myself back because of my feelings and my limiting beliefs and my nerves? So it's okay that you have those feelings, but you just need to get support and you need to work through it because there's a separation between, learning how to job search and what is important. And if I'm nervous to do it, how do I get over that hump, get support, and get more comfortable with what is this all about and what am I all about, and am I getting in my own way, and you are going to grow and you're going to adapt and you might have to step outside your comfort zone. But I think what I want people to recognize is you might not really know yet like what networking is. And I think when I explain it to people and you find the right coach or the right mentor that understands there's a way you can do it authentically. You're not just like asking for a job. Like you can make it a productive, valuable learning experience for both people. You're building a relationship. So I guess just know that the hesitations are normal, but know that there could be a totally different perspective if you were to learn from other people and just try to understand more what this whole thing is all about. I think some people make assumptions, with their fears a little bit and close their mind to it. So, separate what's important. What do I need to know how to do? And is there a way I can make it my own and make it comfortable, but have it work for me as well? So yeah, it can be very new and to people, but that's what coaches and mentors are here for, and finding other people. There's a lot of people to lean on that are going through it. But yeah, there's a difference between leaning on your peers for like moral support and then like learning from people that can show you a new way and a new method and guide you.
Yes, yes, indeed. And there are so many ways, so many methods, and so many unexplored, I don't know, paths to get to the same same point, but with multiple ways to do that, actually. And yeah, just if we already touched that base with the emotional intelligence, what do you think there are the skills that are and will be required from now on into the future? I mean, maybe 5 years or 10 years.
Yeah. I mean, if we're just talking about the softer skills, because technically the technical skills would totally depend on that person, role and industry. So soft skills wise, um, you know, look, with AI and so much changing technology, I think a person needs to be up to date and willing to learn new things and able to learn new tools and new skills and sort of just adapt quickly. I think synthesizing information, right? There's just so much out there, and the ability to communicate well and structure your thoughts and organize your thoughts, which, by the way, is the same skill for interviewing. Um, and yeah, just parsing through complexity and ambiguity. I think our world and any given job is just going to be changing faster with more information. So your ability to show that you can navigate all of that, and sort of know what you don't know how to be resourceful, and especially if people are working remotely, the ability to like sort of team collaboration and productivity is important. But yeah, I also think we're entering an age where, mental health becomes difficult. And so, how do you interrelate with other people? How do you work well with others? If your teammate's having a challenge, are they just having a bad day at home? And can you have that emotional intelligence to sort of serve as a coach for them, serve as a support system? They may just need a teammate that can, help them resolve a challenge. How do you holistically understand yourself and people? So the emotional intelligence, it's absolutely becoming a necessary skill for all of us. um, I mean, there's so many I think that could be valuable skills. I think depending on the company and the culture, they may value different things. Depending on the size and the stage of that company, they may value different things. Um, but yeah, I think as the world gets a little more complex, you're just that resilience, that ability to handle a lot of information, a lot of change, understanding people holistically. I think all of that goes a long way.
Yeah, yes, yes, and I remember why I went the last 4 years to having my second degree in psychology. By saying all of this, yes, it awesome, and it completely makes sense because we are human, and devices are just throwing each other apart. So it's not helping us to build relationships, to have a strong social circle and interaction, and to have all, and also to build our skills in the human direction. Because in the companies, many meetings are transactional. This is the task, this is what we are wanting to do and build and deliver, this is the outcome. Everyone collaborates maybe there, but there's no human touch online and remote.
Yeah, it becomes harder to relate and get to know people really deeply with the remote. So you got to get a little creative, and I think we're all still figuring that out. There's one thing to just work effectively and communicate seamlessly when we're through a screen, and how do you do good project management and be transparent and stay organized without being in person. But yeah, just remembering like there's a person at the other end of your computer, and they have a life, and they have emotions, and they have a family, and they have challenges, and they have whatever stresses. You never know what's going on with people. So I think when you're in person, you have like the energy and the tone, and you can just get to know somebody so much deeper. So I think the key is first recognizing, like, let me just not forget, that we are still people, even though it's a screen, right? And it's like, how do we work collaboratively and effectively and use the tools to our advantage? But yeah, just remembering that we are people in the end of the day too, especially for managers, managing their team, it goes such a long way. If you're seeing a lack of performance, you may say, how are you doing in general, right? How are things going? And what if somebody has something going on that you just had no idea about? I think it's harder to remember that holistic nature. These are people in the end of the day. So there's a lot to it. I think we're all still trying to figure that out, but especially for managers and leaders, it's more important than ever to get that training. And when we talk about upskilling, by the way, even for a an engineer, you could go get coaching training, go get that psychology training, just like you did, and that could give you an edge. I think people think about upskilling just in their lane, but sometimes having a fresh angle and a fresh edge and learn something different that's relevant in a different way. I mean, how do you communicate? That may help a developer, in a different way than you would have thought. So, you can take other courses and trainings and, level up that way and stand out that way.
Yes, yes, indeed. And I remember my second master degree. The first one was in the technical field, and the second one was an MBA. And I was so amazed and wowed by the difference between what we study in the technical universities in software development, computers, programming languages, and architectures, and so on, and what you do in the NBA, whereas you are more towards business and processes and so on. And uh, the second time when I was in the university in psychology, where another field which is about the humans that are building those things. So this is completely a holistical approach that can give anyone a boost in their career, their life, and so on. Having the eyes to see from multiple angles and different perspectives of their I don't know, tasks, business approach, and so on. Yeah, thank you very much. And Rachel, how it was for you? Because we have discussed a lot of what it is now, but how it was for you at the beginning of your career?
In what sense?
In the sense, what challenges did you had? Did you had mentors? Did you had support? Where did you find those, and how were you able to navigate towards your goals?
I mean, I sought out a lot of mentors. I honestly took a lot of time and effort to try to figure out what I wanted to do with my career. So I did a lot of research, I did networking, I did like hands-on projects, whether it was in my job or even outside of my job, got involved with things, volunteering and different things like that. I even showed up at conferences when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I wasn't even in, I thought I wanted to go into like social impact. So I, went to Yale and showed up to the conference just to learn because I just really wanted to figure out what I wanted to do with my own career. So I was trying to do everything possible. And so, it took time. And now I help people do that more efficiently. But I really just sought out, whether it was one on one conversations, volunteering, projects, whatever it could be, where I was just like, I'm interested. Let me go dive in. Let me learn about this. Let me meet this person. So that's really what I was doing for several years. And then eventually you learn enough, you reflect enough, you pivot. And, I eventually figured out, okay, I really, like career coaching. I'm good at it. I enjoy it. People seem to have value in my help. So I leaned in and then got training and got certified and have been building out tools ever since. But yeah, it did take a lot of, time and effort. I mean, I actively sought that stuff out, you know?
Yes, and there were some moments where you felt like it's too much, that you wanted maybe to give up on something, the route.
It's a good question. I mean, running my own business now for over 6.5 years, that was probably the hardest. There was a stint, I worked at an investment bank and then I worked at a hedge fund. And after that, I did actually have to job search for the second time ever, right? And so that was really hard. That's really where I empathize with a lot of my clients. And so that was super, super, super difficult. And I didn't get enough support. But that's where I also saw the industry and I started innovating and say, what do I need as a job seeker and what might other people need? And so, yeah, I would say that was really, really hard. And then also just running a business is hard. And so, look, if I'm ever like wanting to give up, I really just try to seek out support. I try to make it constructive. If I'm like, all right, I'm worried about this, I don't know how to do this, I'm struggling with this, it's like, what can I do as one next step? Is there someone I can learn from? Is there someone who can help me? And I just, yeah, try to honestly build those relationships, reach out, I ask for help, or I'll learn. To me, learning is usually the answer. So I just try to learn from someone or somewhere of how to do this thing better and differently than I've done it before. That's kind of what helps me through. I mean, in your job search, lean on, family and friends, like still try to find ways to have fun in your life and have moral support and have the good, fun, personal, social elements. And then when it comes, treat your job search like a job, and honestly treat it like kind of like you're an entrepreneur. So 9 to 5, really be scrappy and be resourceful and learn and show up, but then take breaks as well and try to live your life and find that balance, because it can burn you out, and you definitely need to find the balance and find the support. It's not easy. Just know that if you're job searching, like, you will get through it. Being creative, being scrappy, measuring, pivoting, adjusting, trying something new, trying something different. Getting support. You don't have to know how to job search. Someone else does, though, and go learn from them. So, yeah, it's not easy, but we're all sort of here for each other, and there's a lot of people, going through it that can help you.
Yes, indeed. And that also reminds me when I stepped into entrepreneurship and I founded my own company. And it was the same process as you mentioned earlier, where it is difficult when you step from being an employee to having your own and being responsible for the everything that's going on there, from marketing, sales, product delivering, and every other department in the first place. So yes, it's a different mindset, a different shift of perspective in that direction. So I can understand completely that part. Okay, um, t- for the rapid fire round. If you could have dinner with any figure, not necessarily from the tech industry, but in the any industry that you want, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Okay. I would say two role models are Ray Dalio and Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I could probably think of more, but those come to the top of the list. Oh, Steve Jobs. Those are my three.
Okay, why? At least for one of them.
When I read Steve Jobs' book, I think we're also like the same Myers Briggs personality. I mean, I couldn't put the book down. I loved the story, his innovation. He didn't really always have the emotional intelligence, but just such a vision, the way he built so much. RBG, just such an advocate. I mean, building women's rights that had never existed, and she was very creative with her words of how to educate and persuade and build new laws and new policies that never existed. um just super effective in that. And yeah, Ray Dalio, I mean, he ran Bridgewater, and I worked there, and he wrote principles, and I actually take a lot of those principles with me. And just such an interesting figure in what he created with Bridgewater. And I think he'd be interested in what I'm working on too. So
Indeed, awesome, awesome. Um, are, could you recommend or just say something about a book or other type of resource that helped you towards in your career, in your life? I don't know, any circumstance.
yeah. Well, so Ray Dalio did write Principles, which is an amazing read. I'm actually in the middle of the Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, which is awesome as well. And what else? Man's Search for Meaning is a great one. Um, yeah, those are probably my top few books. If I had to think, I'm sure I could think of more.
Yes, yes. Uh, uh, have you read Atomic Habits?
I haven't yet, actually, but I know everyone talks about it.
No, yeah, you can give it a try. I mean, it's good also for you to recommend it to people that you are working with, because it's something that can help them create that, I don't know, habit part when you recreate your habits from what you have now and build something something new.
As I always say, mindset, accountability, and practical strategy. So the habits and the accountability, it's huge. Having a coach there can help. But yeah, it sounds like that book is really helpful. And sometimes just understanding the framework of how habits become built without realizing, and then how we can build new ones. Absolutely.
Yes, yes. Indeed, many times we apply without knowing that there are some things or some people that uh, did a research on that field or something like that. But usually, people are and have limiting beliefs or limiting themselves on certain types of actions they don't not necessarily like, but they don't know that they are capable of doing those. So they're always So I there is that word. You don't know what you don't know. That's why reading more, having more resources, getting in touch with mentor coaches and so on in the same field, what other field can help you diversify your perspective, way of seeing things, mindset, and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Read a book you never would have thought you would read, just see what happens.
Yes, that too. And I remember I was reading Dune in high school, and now seeing those movies. Wow.
I know. I actually haven't yet, but it's on my list to do. And yeah, yeah, that's on the short list. We got to see those.
Okay, okay. As we prepare the final for the podcast, is there a particular piece of advice or insight you would like to leave with the audience?
Yeah. So again, my forte is career exploration. And so if you're job searching, just really make sure you take the time and take the steps to learn and get really clear on what exact role, what industry, what type of work environment makes the most sense for you. It's going to be so much easier to job search. I think it's a counterintuitive myth. People think if I have so many options, it opens up the volume, but it can be really hard to search for so many things. So narrowing in on the path that makes sense and then really going after it to find more of the right thing is kind of my key thought, and just finding support. If you're struggling with something or job search, there's gonna be someone with a fresh pair of eyes to give you a next step, some feedback, a new tactic, some way forward. And know that job search is hard, but you absolutely can and will get through it. So we're here to support you.
Awesome. And maybe you can tell people now where they can find you.
Yeah. Our website is iamwoken.com. And then on LinkedIn, I'm Rachel Serwetz. So yeah, and on social media, we're usually at Get Woken or at Woken on LinkedIn. So find us, follow us. We always have, free events, workshops, things like that. So our website also has a ton of free blogs and videos and meditations and downloadables. So, yeah, we try to really help as much as humanly possible. And we always offer a free initial chat. So, if you want some feedback on how you're doing and how we can help, please do reach out.
Okay, thank you very much, Rachel. And one final thought: how did you felt today in this podcast?
I could talk all day about, these things. And people always tell me I talk fast and loud. It's because I care so much about these types of topics. So, this is, what I feel is the most important thing, for me to share at least with others. So, I could talk about this all day.
Awesome. Awesome. I can see from your energy and the willingness of sharing multiple things and so on. And it's something that I can feel like it's from a passion of yours and not necessarily from just having a company that are uh, making money.
Exactly. I mean, I always say if you're going to start a company, the only way you're going to last 6.5 years or 60 years is if you care about the work. So don't start a company otherwise.
Indeed, because it's a lot of hassle there.
Yeah, you're only going to stick it out if you actually care about what you're doing. So
Yes, yes. Okay, okay. Yeah, and that's a wrap for today's episode of Vibe It Up. I hope you enjoyed our insightful conversation with Rachel. And before we go, I want to extend a big thank you to our guest for sharing his valuable knowledge and experience. Thank you, Rachel. It was a pleasure. And for the rest of us that you want to reach to us, contact me, contact Rachel. You have our LinkedIn channels. You can find us everywhere. And yeah, thank you very much.